What's up guys, welcome back to another word-based building video. In today's video we are going to talk about what format of the defenses to use, like multi-inferno or single inferno, air bow or ground bow, a skelly trap on air or ground, sweeper orientations, multi-mortar or regular mortar, things like that, and what heroes to run on defense. We are not gonna go too in depth on them. If you guys would like me to make a video in depth about these small details of base building and such, comment down below and I'll make sure to do one for you guys. Now let's start with single infernos. So for single infernos, the first thing you want to do is you never want single infernos in a rage compartment. Now, if you have a double rage base or a single rage in the core of the base, you want multi-infernos in them because first of all, when you have single infernos, you need time, so the single can go full beam and destroy the troop. But when you have rage compartments on your base, the point is adding a lot more DPS on the base and not wasting time like you have with poison towers. Or when you use poison towers, you basically slow down the troops, so it gives time for the single inferno to actually cook the troops. But with multis, you always want them in a rage. If you are using them in a rage compartment, if you have them, you most of the time want them in the rage compartment because they do like they split the beams to 5 targets, so that's nice. Whenever you're using single infernos, it's not a bad practice to have a skelly, ground or air, depending on what you want to defend. If it's dragon, obviously air targeting skellies. If it's ground troops like root riders, sui maybe, something like that, ground skellies, of course. That's not a bad practice. It's not a bad habit to learn early on in base building, so you can delay the attacker a bit more and just give that single inferno a bit more punch to go through the base. Now for air or ground bows, it's really situation based. It's not, I can't say for certain you always need to use ground bows or always use air bows, something like that. But one of the best examples of this is, let's say you have a compartment right here. I'm not going to go too in depth on the size. Let's say you have something like that here. Then after that you have a town hall in core with invisible setup, rage and invisible setup, like so. Then you have some defenses around it, maybe like this, something like that. Then what you want to do is, let's say you have 3 merged multi-archer towers and 3 merged cannons. So if you've used a bow here with a multi-archer tower, then you use the same bow here, but you have a ricochet cannon. Now the problem is this side of the base is basically balanced because the multi-archer tower is able to target ground and air. The bow is on ground, so you won't have any problems because you have this buffer here inside this compartment to take care of any air targeting troops. But on this side, if let's say we drop a dragon here and we don't have anything else to target this dragon, this compartment is very vulnerable to get sniped with 1 or 2 dragons maybe, or inferno dragon, something like that. So in this case we just turn this bow to air. On this side it's on ground, but on this side we turn it to air. Now if you're using air bows, keep in mind the range is lower, so you might need to readjust the position of your defenses so they are not vulnerable, too vulnerable to flame flinger value, so keep that in mind. But yeah, that's basically it. whenever you're using ricochet cannons, it's a good practice to have an air defense close by. It can be on inner layers of the base, it can be on outer layers of the base, depending on the style of the base and how you're building the base, of course. It varies, but it's always good practice to have some air defenses near your ricochet cannons, because they are such a great defense and you don't want them to get sniped easily by air troops. Now, the other thing we are gonna talk about, which is really simple, is skelly traps. There are two modes or variations you guys can use, one of which is air skellies or ground skellies, which varies if you want to stop ground troops or air troops. Now, there are certain scenarios that actually are the opposite. Like, if you are trying to stop a ground army, like root riders, for example, and you have a compartment here, let's say, you have a compartment here, and you want to stop, I don't know, a root rider spam into this compartment. Now, if you use ground a skeleton right here, what's gonna happen is the Valks are actually gonna take it out, so it's not gonna be as useful. So in these scenarios where your skelly is basically on the outer layer of the base and it's directly into the root rider entry, you might want to use air skellies to target the healers or something, or just remove the skelly spell entirely. And make sure you guys don't use skellies in path of RC charges as well, because it's a waste. RC is gonna pull him and destroy him with the aura. Now, for air skellies, one of the best examples I can give you guys is, let's say we have an air defense here with another defense here. Let's put a multi-archer tower here. Then we close this off and we have a bigger compartment behind this. Let's say this is a scatter compartment. We have something like this, similar setup to this. And what we want to do is, let's say the attacker is gonna RC charge this side of the base, then let's say the town hall is here, and then the attacker, after this side of the base is RC charged, the attacker is gonna attack directly into the town hall and end on the bottom side, which our air defenses are placed. Now, what we can do here is, see, let's say, how can we actually make that back end a bit rougher? Yes, you can use your seeking air mines or something to kill dragons on the back end, but one more thing you guys can do is add an air skelly, especially on something like this. When you have a storage here, this storage is a buffer to allow the air defense to do more damage while the dragons are taking it out. Then take a look at the range of your air defense and range of your skelly trap. Now, this skelly trap outranges my air defense by like 1 tile. So what I want to do is, I want the dragons to basically activate this skelly trap as soon as they get near the skeleton, the air defense. So I'm gonna put it like this. So after the dragons take this out, this skelly trap is gonna pop and give the air defense just a bit more time. Now, if you guys are lower town hall and these don't apply to you, don't worry. I'm going to talk about multi-archer tower and multi-cannon on lower town halls before you guys merge them together. It's not really that much that to talk about for lower town halls. Multi-cannon adds more DPS, but the range is lower. I personally almost never used it at lower town halls when I was building. But Archer Tower is a different story, because the DPS or the damage output of it, although the range is lower, is actually good if you want to add some more DPS on certain part of your base. Now let's talk about multi-mortar or mortar placement. the best example I can give you guys is, let's say we have a compartment here. We are gonna put a scatter in there. Then we are gonna use our, let's say, RC here and a mortar here. These are just examples, by the way, not a correct way to build compartments, just so you guys know. Then we have our mortar here on this side. Then on the other side we have a similar scatter comp. Come on. We have a similar scatter comp, but the difference is we have our archer queen here for this compartment instead of the RC. So what you want to do is always use the multi-mortar where your RC is placed, or near where your RC is placed, because the multi-mortar does more damage than a regular mortar, of course, you guys know that. But the main reasons for that is RC has one less tile of a range compared to the queen. So adding the multi-mortar over there near your RC, if you are trying to prevent a flame flinger value like that, kinda basically almost negates that weakness of Royal Champion that doesn't have the same range as the queen. So yeah, that's basically the most basic way you guys can use decide to use multi-mortar or a regular mortar. Now, as for something else that we had a lot of questions about is what hero to use on defense, or what heroes to use, since we have 5 of them now instead of the regular 4 we used to have. Now, using the Warden has its benefits, and one of those benefits is you can't really pull the Warden outside. Let's say you have a compartment here and you have a queen here, let's say here. You can actually drop a skelly or two around here, or maybe a barbarian, an ice golem, a giant, something, then pull the queen outside and kill her with some headhunters. Then use a flame flinger to get all of the value over here if there are no bows or something else. But if you have a Warden in this compartment, then that's a different story. Because of the range of the Warden is gonna just sit here and snipe everything on the outside instead of jumping the wall and going out. So, but is that enough advantages to not use the Minion Prince instead? In my opinion, no. The Minion Prince just has a lot more HP, a lot more damage output, and it's just a lot more annoying to deal with compared to the enemy Warden on defense. So what I would use is always King, Minion Prince, and RC, and your Queen. Almost never, like 99.9% of the time, the Warden is subbed out. Is the 5th hero that you guys basically never see on defense. But yeah, that's it. That's just the basics of multi versus single, air versus ground, and such for your defenses, and what heroes to use on the base. If you guys have any more questions or would like me to make a more in-depth guide for these with a lot more examples, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, and see you guys in the next video.